Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome back to Mahabharata reading and Bhagavad Gita Shloka recitation. We got a break in between for a couple of days. So we'll catch up. We'll do a recap. So let's first recite Bhagavad Gita Shlokas. So last week we had recited chapters 7, 8, and 9. So this week we will recite 4, 5, and 6 to refresh our memory. ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 4. So who will go first? Okay, Rasapriya.
Bhagavad Gita 4:1. Sri Bhagavata Imam Isman Manu Braha Manar Kumaya. The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna said, I instructed the seven principal science of yoga. Son God wills him, and Vivasvan instructed him to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu, in turn, instructed him to expel him. 4:2. Evam Parampara Praptam Imam Rajar Sayogitu Sakavene Hamahata Yoga Nasta Parantapa. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of visible succession, and the saintly games understood it in that way. But in course of time, succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. 4:3. Sa evaya vaya tetya yoga prokta puratana bhakto sime sakha seti rahasyam ilayadapati. That very ancient science, the relationship with the Supreme, is today told by me, because you are my devotee, as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. 4:5. Say Bhagavan Vasa, Bhuvuni Vede Chittani, Jamani Tavatsana, Tanyaham Vede Savani. The personality of God has said, many words, both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot. Also, dear of the human person. As will be done of the Atma, who down on each one. Prakriti Swam and Starya, Samhamaya. Although I am unborn, and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium, and mine origin is one. Whenever and whenever there is a decline of the millions surface, or descendant of Karaka, and a predominance rise of reason, At that time, I discerned for it. Paritranaya sadhuna Vinasya Kritam Dharmasam Sthapanarthaya Sambhavami Yoge. He remembered twice and continued the Muslims, as well as to re-establish the principles of Buddhism. I myself, in the millennium after millennium, Dharma Karma Samana एवं wonderfully my opinions does not take you further than in this material world, but again eternal personal. For 10. Vitaraga Bhayam Krodha Maya Mahabharata Bhava Pranata Pasa Mutavad Bhava Pranata. Being free from attachment, fear, and then being fully absorbed and free, and taking refuge in me, and even immersing in the past, and breaking the noise of me, and thus all the day transcend to love.
Easy. For 11. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tamstataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante anushya partha sarvashaha. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. For 13. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam gunakarma vibhagashaha tasya kartaram imam vidya kartaram avyayam. According to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me, and although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. 434. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas-tattva-darshinaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. 35. Yajñātva na punarmoham evam yasyasi pandava yena bhutanya sheshani rakshasyatmanyato mahi. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or, in other words, that they are mine. 436. Apichedasi patebhyaha sarvebhya papakrittamaha sarvam jnana plavenaiva vrijinam santarishyasi. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. 438. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddhaha kale natmani vindati. In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. Okay. Agyascha saddhadanascha samshayatma vinashyati nayam lokosi naparo nasukam samshayatmanaha. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. 442. Tasmat Agyan Sambhutam Itztam Gyanasinatmanaha Shetvainam Sanchayam Yogam Atishvatishta Bhavata. Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga of Bharata, stand and fight.
5-2. Sri Bhagavanuvacha Sannyasa Karma Yogasya Nishayasa Karavabha Tayostu Karma Sannyasa Karma Yoga Vishishyate. The personality of God had replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. 5-6. Sannyasa mahabaho dukkham abdam ayogataha yoga yukto munar brahma nacharena dhigachati. Merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. 5-7. Yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriyaha sarva bhutatma bhutatma purvannapi na lipyate. One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul, and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. 5-10. Brahmanyadhaya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti yaha vipyatena sapapena padmapadram imam. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. 5-16. Jnanena tu tadajnanam yesham na shatamatmanam tesham aditya vajnanam prakashayati tatparam. One is enlightened with the knowledge by which nations is destroyed. Then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. 5-18. Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavihastini shuni chaiva shubhakecha pandita samadarshanaha. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater outcast. 5-20. Na prarishyet priyam prapya, nodvajet prapya cha priyam, stira buddhir asamurdho, brahmavid brahmani stataha. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant, nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is already situated in transcendence. 5-22. Yehi samsparsha jabhoga dukkhayo naya evate adyantavanta konteya nateshu ramate buddha. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. 5-24. Yonta sakhantar aramas tathantar jyotir evayama sayogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhuto dekachati. One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. 5-29. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram Suhradam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantam rachyati. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries.
So, all of you who are attending either through YouTube or through Zoom, uh, even if you're not familiar, just try to recite along with us. And by reciting it every day, gradually you'll become familiar and you will also start reciting. So, even if it is not familiar, just keep reciting. Okay? Yeah. The next Madhava, chapter 6, text 1.
Sri Bhagavan Uvarta Anusrita Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karotiyaha Tasanyasi Sayogi Sa Nanaragnarnasakriyaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is a true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. 6.5 Uddhayadatmanatmanam Atmanam avasasya Atmaivahatmano bandhur Atmaivajaparatmanaha. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. Panduratmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jataha anatmanatsu satrutve vartetatmaiva satruvat. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. 6.7 Zatatmana prasantasya paramatma samahitaha shitosna sakadukhesu tatamana. For one who has conquered the mind, the supersoul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. 6.8 Jnana Vijnana Riptatma Kutasto Vijitendriyaha Yukta Ityuksate Yogi Samadostashnakansanaha. A person is said to be established in the self and is called a yogi or mystic, and he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it is pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. 6.16 Natishapastu Nachaikantam Anasataha Nachati Swapnashivasya Jagato Naiva Charjuna. There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. It's 17. Yuktahara viharasya Yukta cheshtasya karmasu Yukta swapna bodhasya Yogo bhavati dukkha. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. 6.19 Yathadipo nivatasto ningate sopamasmata yogino yatachitasya yendrito yogamatmana. As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist, whose mind is controlled, remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self.
6:20-23 Yatra Brahmanote Siddham Nirodham Yogasya Yatra Sevatmanam Pasyanatmanasasati Sukham Adyantikam Yakta Buddhiprayam Adindayam Vidyatra Natarya Yam Siddhasadvidanda Yam Labhvataparam Labham Mandiryam Vipakata Yitmanchitona Kena Guruna Vivisagata Tam Vidya Tukasam Yoga in the stage of perfection called trance, samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from the mental activities. The practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to arouse and exhaust. In that sort of stage, one is situated in practice. He thinks there is no greater good. Since the religions of the Buddhist is in the midst of greatest difficulty. This is indeed is also freedom from all miseries, rising from the real contact. 624. Yoga Nirvana Sensa Sankalpa Prabhavam Kamas Tyakta Sita Manasaya Yagramam the practice of yoga with determination and faith will not be limited from path. Once the abandoned practice all material desires, words and knowledge. And thus control all the senses on our sides by the mind. From wherever the mind wanders, due to its flickering nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back. There is 697.
He is beyond the world of darkness. He realizes God is dependent and and thus he is free from all God.
629. Sarvabhutastamatmanam Sarvabhutani Chatmani Ikshate Yoga Sarvatra Samadarshana. A true yogi observes me and all beings, and also sees every being in me. Indeed, a self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. 630. Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sacha na pranashyati. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. 634. Kanchalam hi mana krishna pramati balavatidam tasyaham nigraham manye vayo ivasudushkaram. For the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. O Krishna, to subdue it, I think is more difficult than controlling the wind. 635. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Asamshayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena Chubdhyate. Lord Sri Krishna said, Almighty Avatar of Kunti, it's undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment.
Yes. 640. श्रीभगवानुवाच पार्थनैवेह न मुद्र विनाशस्तस्य विद्यते न हि कल्याणकृत् कश्चित् दुर्गतिं तात गच्छति. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction, either in this world or the spiritual world. My friend is never overcome by evil. 641. Prapya punya kratam lokam Shatinam Shritam Yoga Bhrashto Bhajayate. The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people, or into a family of rich aristocracy. 642. अथवा योगिनां च एव कुले भवति धीमताम् एतद्धि दुर्लभतरं लोके जन्म यदीदृशम्. Or, if unsuccessful, after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly, such a birth is rare. 643. Tatra tam buddhi samyogam labhate parvadehikam yatate chatato bhuyaha samsiddha kurunandana. On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru.
644. Purvasenatena Jigyasa Jigyasa Abhimukasya Sabdabrahma Divartate. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attached to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist always stands the recursive principles of the scriptures. 645. Prayatnayata manastu yogi samsiddhakil visaha katanma samsiddhas tato yati param gatim. And when the yogis engage in the service with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being vast of all condemnations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many and many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. Yoginam api sarvesam madgatenantaratmanah Shraddhavam bhajate yomam samayukta samamataha. And of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. That is my opinion.
Wow, exactly half an hour. It's 11 o'clock. So let's read Mahabharata. So we read in Mahabharata in the last session. We read how the Pandavas entered the kingdom of Matsya, the city of Virata. Uh, so before entering into Virata, so their term, the Pandavas' term of exile, was the condition in the gambling match was the loser would have to spend 12 years in exile, and the 13th year they should live in some uh, uh, you know place in a kingdom where people are living, but they should be living incognito. No one should be able to recognize the Pandavas. That is the condition. And if they are recognized, then then once again they have to go back to the forest for um, another term of 12 years of exile and 1 year of living incognito. And again, if they get caught, if they get recognized, once again they have to go like this. So now the 12 years have come to an end, and Yudhishthir Maharaj is now planning about where they should go and live to spend the 13th year. And Arjun suggested uh, different places. And he also mentioned Virata, the city of Virata in the Matsya kingdom. Yudhishthir Maharaj said Arjun said to Arjun that I think we should we should select Virata city because this is what Dharma had told them. Remember, in the last session, we saw how Dharma had stolen, not sorry, Dharma didn't steal, but yeah, he took away the paraphernalia of that Brahmana because he knew the Pandavas would come and he asked them questions. Yudhishthir Maharaj answered the questions. And after that, being pleased with Yudhishthir Maharaj's questions, answers, Dharma said, ask me for a boon. And Yudhishthir Maharaj uh, said, asked him, please bless us so that we may not be recognized during the 13th year. At that time, Dharma had said, yes, you won't be recognized. I give you this benediction. Even if you went in your own form like this, without any disguise, still no one will be able to recognize you. And there he suggested that you should stay in Viratanagar, city of Virata. So now Yudhishthir Maharaj, when he was discussing with his brothers and Draupadi where they should go, so they decided, Yudhishthir Maharaj said, we should go to Virata because that's what do you say, Dharma had said, so we should do that. And also, Arjun had a question, how will you hide yourself? You are the emperor of the whole earth planet. You are like a god, so brilliant, so effulgent. First of all, how will you work as a servant to someone who is below you? Everyone is below you because you are the emperor. At least all the other kings are below you. How can you become a servant? So then Yudhishthir Maharaj said, I'll go as Kanka. Kanka means I'll be like an advisor to the king. He's a Brahmana. uh, And so he will be, Brahmana's position is always superior to the Kshatriyas. And then I will go there as an expert in playing dice. In this way, I will keep company. Hmm? And so now each one is saying how they will actually, what type of disguise will they take. So Yudhishthir Maharaj said, I'll go as a Kanka. And then what will Bhimsen do? So Bhimsen said, I will become a cook called Vallabha and I will cook because Bhimsen is an expert cook. He said, I'll prepare all fine dishes for the king. And in this way, I will satisfy the king. And in addition to this, I will also, for the king's pleasure, I will wrestle with his other wrestlers as well as with powerful elephants and bulls. I will overthrow them and you don't have to worry about me. I will take care of myself. Then, looking at Arjun, Yudhishthir Maharaj said, Arjun, you are the one, you know, you are so great that Lord Agni came in front of you to seek your help, Khandava forest. So how will you hide yourself? And you even went to the heavens in this very body, and you're an intimate friend of Krishna. Actually, Yudhishthira Maharaj was feeling very sad for Arjun, such an exalted person. Now he will be in disguise, he will be like a servant. So he was feeling sorry. And that such a great person is going to, especially because he's Krishna's friend. Such a difficulty for such a great person. So then Arjun said, he remembered, actually, when I was in Swarga, I got a curse from Urvashi. And that curse will now be a boon. He was cursed to lose his uh, masculinity. Is there a word like that? To lose his male power, right? So he will be like um, he'll become a eunuch. So um, so during he said, I will teach dance. I will the uh, in the quarters where the ladies stay along with the other ladies, and I'm also expert in dancing and other musical arts that I learned from the mm, Gandharvas from Chitrasena. So I will teach them, I will teach his daughter how to dance, and in this way I will spend 1 year, no problem. And then Yudhishthir Maharaj thought, Arjun, a eunuch, how astonishing, right? Of course, again, such a great warrior, he'll be a eunuch, my God, like that. And then now it was the turn of Nakul. What will Nakul do? Nakul said, I love the horses so much. In fact, I love the horses as much as I love you, Yudhishthir Maharaj. So he said, I will take care of the horses of uh, Matsya Naresh, the king of Virata. So, and I will spend 1 year there, right? And then Sahadev said, I'm very expert and I love to take care of cows. So I have so many skills in taking care of cows. I know how to milk and how to tame them, how to breed cows. I have all this. And um, so I'll become Tantripala, one who takes care of cows. And in this way, I will spend 1 year. And then Yudhishthir Maharaj is looking at Draupadi. You know, she was born from fire and she's never been, you know, she's always lived in royalty as a princess. She doesn't know any, you know, she has never served anyone as a servant. She's always been in the position of a queen, in the position of a mistress. How will she become a servant there? Then Draupadi said, don't worry, there is one class of maids called Sairindri. So these maids, um, that it's such a position that no respectable lady will take the position of Sairindri. So that is the last place where somebody will look for Draupadi. Also, see, Draupadi is so beautiful, extremely, extraordinarily beautiful. Mm. So that's also a concern. How will she hide herself, right? So she said, I will become a Sairandri and no one will be able to recognize because no respectable lady will take that service, that profession of Sairandri. And I will become the personal maid, hairdresser of the queen, King Virata's wife, Sudeshna. And then Yudhishthir Maharaj gave Draupadi some good advice and he said that all this while, you know, you have been very chaste and you are a very chaste lady, pious lady, and you've never sinned. You're a stranger to sin. You've never sinned. So while you are in Virata, you should conduct yourself very carefully so that other men don't get attracted to you like this. And Draupadi also said that I don't know if she told her husbands or she directly told the, yeah, maybe she tells it later on that she'll tell it to Sudeshna. Anyway, so then in this way they all decided, then this they decided privately amongst themselves. They didn't discuss it with anyone else. They wanted to keep it a complete secret. So remember, they had so many brahmanas and even their priest Dhaumya accompanying them throughout these 12 years. So then they said, they told the brahmanas, now this is the last 1 year of living incognito. We cannot have anyone with us. So all of you, please go. You can go to Drupad Maharaj's kingdom, and there, you know, he will take care of you. Or you can also go to Dwaraka, like that. So especially Yudhishthir Maharaj sent his personal chariot driver, personal servant Indrasena to Dwaraka. And then you take all your items, you know, your puja, you know, whatever ladles and whatever their paraphernalia that they use for their yagyas, you can go there and the king will take care of you and you'll live there peacefully for this 1 year. And then one fine day, the day they decided on which day, so, you know, auspiciousness was invoked by, you know, fire sacrifices were performed and prayers were offered, and finally the Pandavas left. Now they walked and walked through the forest once again for a long time until finally they arrived at the what do you say, outskirts of the city of Virata. So they came to the river Kalindi. Kalindi is Yamuna river. And then now they also decided that we should not carry our weapons, because also the weapons were so famous. Gandiva. Anyone would recognize Arjun with the Gandiva. So then they decided that we'll tie all our weapons in a cloth and tie it up. There's a big tree in the outskirts of Virata city. So they thought they'll just tie it up. So they did that. Uh, 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 you know, all their weapons they tied up in a blanket or in a cloth. Actually, the upper cloth of Bhimsen, because Bhimsen is big, right? So his upper cloth, they tied up all the weapons, and they tied it high in a tree, ensuring that nobody will come and touch it. And also, so see the way they were dressed, the Pandavas, the way they were dressed, they looked like some tribal people in the forest. So they were wearing the tree barks, and they had their beard and long hair tied in top knot. They just looked like some tribal people. So then, when they arrived in this new city, they were strangers, travelers. So when they came there, they after tying their weapons high up, they thought their plan was, actually this was in a crematorium. So their plan was that people will think this is some dead corpse that somebody tied up, so nobody will touch, right? They'll get scared, they won't touch it. So um, uh, they just made sure that they told the local people, after walking a certain distance, they said, this is our mother's dead body, this is our tradition that we tie the dead body like this on the tree. So and we are telling you just to ensure that nobody touches it like that. This is our mother's dead body. So the people thought, yeah, this. So now the word will spread, right? Oh, that's a dead body, so nobody will touch. So after leaving the weapons there, then they went started entering into the city. Now the question is, who will go first, right? So before going in, once again, Yudhishthir Maharaj prayed to goddess Durga, isn't it? You remember? Yeah, he prayed to goddess Durga that they may not be recognized. How? What is the logic there, or what is the reason? Krishna says, "Naham prakashah sarvasya yogamaya samavrita." His prakriti, material nature, Durga Devi, she keeps all the forgetful souls in illusion. Even if the Lord is present right in front of the conditioned souls, they cannot recognize Krishna, that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Someone thinks he's a cowherd boy, someone thinks he's an enemy, like that, because of Durga Devi. So Yudhishthir Maharaj is praying to Durga Devi that you also keep us hidden like that from the vision of the whole world. The way you keep Krishna, she cannot hide Krishna. She covers the vision of the conditioned souls. Similarly, you cover the vision of all the people so that they may not recognize us during this 1 year. Of course, Yudhishthir Maharaj already got the blessing of Dharma, but to make sure, right, just doubly ensure that they don't get uh, discovered, he prays to Durga Devi. And then Durga Devi also assures them, right, that yes, you will not be discovered. And even then, they decide to go one after another so that they don't go, or if they all went at a time, they can get. So at every point, they are being very careful. So who goes in first? First of all, on the first, uh, they decide, and first of all, Yudhishthir Maharaj went and entered into um, this Virat Maharaj's court. And when Virat Maharaj saw Yudhishthir Maharaj walking in, he was like, wow, who is this? He looks like a god. And immediately he's like, um, he asked him who he was, and then he said, and even before talking to Yudhishthir Maharaj, Virat Maharaj started talking to his advisors. Who is this? Right? He looks so effulgent. I will just give my whole kingdom to him. He can handle the whole kingdom. He cannot be a Brahmana. He looks so, like a warrior. He looks like a king. He looks like the Lord of the earth to me, right? like that. And finally Yudhishthir Maharaj comes up to Virata, and then he says that I'm a Brahmin and I used to serve in Yudhishthir Maharaj's kingdom, but I lost everything now, and I want to accept you as my master. You maintain me, like that. Of course, obviously Virata was very happy, and he bowed down before this Kanka. Yudhishthir Maharaj welcomed him, and he said, "You consider that whatever is mine is also yours," like that. And then, "What type of skills do you have?" He said, "I'm very expert in playing dice." King Virat was also very fond of playing dice. So he was very thrilled. He was very happy that now he's going to have a good time. But Yudhishthir Maharaj made a condition that, yeah, you will not, like, during the play, it's just going to be for entertainment. I don't want to be involved in any disputes or fights over the game, right? And then the king said, "Why just me? If anyone does anything, any wrong to you, then I'm going to kill that person. Even if that wrongdoer is a Brahmin, I will punish him, I will banish him from the kingdom. That means you're so dear to me," like that. In this way, Kanka entered, and Yudhishthir Maharaj entered, and he was given a nice accommodation within the palace, being the king's advisor, like that. Now the next day, Bhima came with his ladle and he brought a sword also. He had a ladle, all his paraphernalia for cooking. Once again, his body was so huge. When he walked in, he was so effulgent, and in the court, everyone was amazed to see Bhimsen. Who is this, right? And he's carrying all these kitchen paraphernalia. I wonder what he wants, right? And then whatever he wants, he should get right away. He looks like a Gandharva, not like a human being. And then Bhima came, and Bhima said, "I'm a cook called Vallabha, and please appoint me as a cook in your kitchen. I'm very expert in cooking." So Virata was looking at Bhimsen's arms, right? And this cannot be a cook. He looks like a great warrior, or even like he looks like a demigod actually. And he said, but Bhimsen said, "No, I'm just a servant, right? Let me cook in the kitchen." And then, and the voice of Bhimsen was like a great drum, right? And then he said that, "I used to cook for Yudhishthir Maharaj before, uh, and at the same time, I'm also a great wrestler, right? I can even wrestle with lions and elephants." So, yeah, he was accepted, right? The king said, "Yes, you'll be not just a cook in my kitchen, you'll be the head cook in my kitchen," right? "I don't think it's fit for you, but still, because you're asking for it, I think you're actually fit to be the ruler of the whole earth," like that. So Bhima entered the kitchen, he started cooking. The next day, after Yudhishthir Bhima, Draupadi entered. So she was dressed in soiled clothes, and she had a beautiful long braid, but not well kept because she was living in the forest all these years. And she walked through the cities, and all the people saw her. She was, even in that condition, she was so beautiful. And then they gathered around her and they said, "Who are you? Hmm? And what do you want here?" Right? She's alone. How it's not normal to see women alone walking, right? In Vedic society, they're always accompanied by either their father, husband, or son, somebody. So, but she's walking alone on the street, and that too, she's so dressed. So, who are you, and what do you want here? So she said, "I'm actually looking for some job, right? I need some service." And then when she spoke, her voice was so sweet, right? And her beauty was so enchanting. They thought, "She's looking for some work? She's a servant? We can't believe it," right? And then they said, "Why don't you go to the queen, Sudeshna? This is the way." And Sudeshna, when she saw her, even she thought, "My God, she's so beautiful, right? Why are you wandering around like this? This cannot be that, you know, that you want to be a servant. You can have many, many servants yourself, from your appearance, from your features, from the physical appearance, just like we read in Chaitanya Charitamrita about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are certain, the length of the chest and the nose and the ears and your arms, how long they are. These are all, and also, further, if you want to see the impressions on your palms and on the soles, from this you can tell who is a great personality. So Sudeshna, from looking at the form of Draupadi, could understand she's not an ordinary person. She's some exceptional, like demigoddess or something. So she said, I can't believe that you are a servant or you want to accept some service like that. But looks like you're a demigoddess who's come from the heavens, right? So she described her face and everything, how beautiful she was. Her skin was like silk and all that. So then Draupadi, once again, in a modest way, she covered herself properly with the cloth, and then she said, no, I'm not a goddess. I'm actually a maid, Sairandri, belonging to the Sairandri class. I'm very expert in dressing hair and preparing unguents. Unguents, I think they're like different creams or whatever you apply. So she said, I'm very expert at this. And I used to actually serve Draupadi, Queen Draupadi, and also Satyabhama, Krishna's beloved queen. But now, I don't have any engagement. If you allow me, I'll serve you in your palace, like that. So Sudeshna still couldn't believe, my God, right? She looks not just like a queen, like an empress. How could she become a serving maid? But at the same time, she's so beautiful. Having such a beautiful maid as his servant, her servant, right? This will really enhance the glory of her palace. But at the same time, she had one fear. If such a beautiful lady walks around in the palace, my husband will get attracted to her. What to speak of all other men? They will all start dropping down on the floor looking at her beauty. And my husband, when he sees her, he will neglect me and he will just go after her. So, will this accepting this Sairandri as my maid, will I be actually harming myself? Right? So she expressed it to Draupadi. She said, I really like you. I want to accept you, but I'm afraid, this is my fear, that my husband will get attracted to you. So Draupadi said, don't worry. Actually, I'm married. I have 5 husbands, 5 Gandharva husbands, not ordinary, 5 Gandharva husbands. So you cannot see them, but they're always watching me. They're always watching me. If any man looks at me lustily or tries to misbehave with me, they will kill that person. Hmm? So I will not, I will always, and I don't want you to send me to other men to do any service. She put some conditions. You will not engage me in washing someone else's, feet, right? You go to invite, sometimes servants go and wash the feet. You will not engage me in washing another's feet, nor will you ask me to eat anyone's remnants. This is my request. It's a condition. So then Sudeshna accepted, of course, no problem. She accepted that. And also she didn't want to go to other men, or she didn't want that type of exposure. And she made it clear that she's a chaste wife of 5 Gandharva husbands. And if anyone even tried to misbehave with her, that would be the end of their life. So now Sudeshna's fears were also allayed. So she was like, okay, so, you know, she has her husband, so I don't have to worry. Like this, Draupadi also entered. Who else is remaining now? Arjun. Arjun didn't come. Nakul Sahadev also did not come. So after Draupadi, then Sahadev entered as a cowherd. When he entered into the Goshala, at the same time the king happened to be there once again, right? He asked him, why you came here to my city? Because Sahadev said that I'm actually Tantripala. I used to work for the Pandavas in their cow shed. I'm very expert in handling the cows. I'm looking for some service here. Again, he was so impressed. He said, you'll be the head, right? You'll be in charge of my whole Goshala, and you'll be the officer. All the other cowherds will work under you, right? Uh, like this. Then after this, so Sahadev said, I was an Indraprastha before, like that. So Sahadev is also in Virata now. Then after Sahadev, the next day, uh, Arjun enters. How? Arjun is now, so the 13th year has started. So that curse, when Urvashi had cursed Arjun that he will lose, he will become a eunuch,
Then Arjun was quite worried. So he expressed his fears to Chitrasena, and Chitrasena told Indra. So Indra came and Indra told Arjun, actually, you can choose which 1 year. So first of all, losing your, male ness will not be eternal. It will only be for 1 year. And even that 1 year is whichever year you choose. That's when you will be for 1 year. So now, at the beginning of the 13th year of their exile, Arjun accepted that curse. So all of a sudden, now he's not a man anymore. He becomes a eunuch, and he dresses also like that. So his arms were powerful, Kshatriya arms like serpents. And also he will have so many marks, right? People who fight, they have scars. So to cover them, he wore so many conch bangles on his arms and hands, so nobody will recognize him. And he had a nice long braid, and he dressed in so many, layers of silk garments like a lady. And then he was walking, but at the same time, he was so big warrior, right? So he looked like a huge elephant dressed up nicely like a lady and walking. And when he entered, everyone was amazed. Who is this personality like that? And he came also to King Virata's court, and his voice was so deep and it echoed when he spoke. He said, I belong to the neuter sex, right? So I'm a eunuch. Um, but I sing, dance, and I play musical instruments. I am skilled in all these arts. So I can teach your daughter Uttara how to dance, how to sing, and how to play musical instruments. Uh, Actually, when he first came, again Virata was amazed. He was asking his counselors, "Who is this person? I've never seen anyone like this. Although he looks like like a eunuch, but he's so attractive." And then he told Arjun, "You appear like a demigod, right? Although you are dressed in this way, you appear like some great personalities, like a celestial personality." Then he asked him, "Actually, I think you should rule this kingdom. You take my kingdom and you rule it. I will retire now because I'm getting so much confidence in you, seeing you. I just cannot believe that, you're a eunuch. You become my son and you rule my kingdom like that." At first sight, Virata said. So then Arjun said, "No, I'll be a dancer. I will teach dance and music and singing to your daughter." So Virata agreed, but he asked his, the other ladies to test if he's actually eunuch or if he's, because how he let another man go and stay with ladies. So they actually tested and they said, yes, he is free from all lust, right? So in this way, Arjun entered and he was spending his time there teaching musical instruments. Now, who else is remaining? The last person is Nakul. And Nakul entered and he went into the Astabal, the stables, horse stables, royal stables. And he went there and he started looking at the horses, examining them. And the king saw him doing this. He said, "He also looks like a celestial." He called him and he said, "Where are you from?" Right? Then he said, "My name is Grantika. I used to take care of Yudhishthir Maharaj's horses before, and I can tell the temper of the horses and I can break them completely. That means I can bring them under control. Sometimes horses go mad, but I can actually bring them under control. I'm very expert in that. And also, when I take care of horses, they don't even fall sick, right? Like that. So you keep me as your horse keeper, I will serve you." Virata was very happy. So he could see this person looks like a great Kshatriya, but he wants to do this service. He said, "Yeah, you take charge of all my stables, right? Everyone else will work under you, including the charioteers. Everyone will work under you. To me, you look like a king and you're so pleasing," right? Like that. So, yeah. So his thoughts go to Yudhishthir Maharaj. He's thinking, I wonder how that faultless Pandava, Yudhishthir Maharaj, is living in the deep forest without servants like you. He already met few others. They all said they all came from They all used to serve Yudhishthir Maharaj like that. So in this way, the Pandavas have achieved their position. So now we'll continue with the next chapter. They're all in Virata, chapter 36. Draupadi again insulted. After 12 long years in the forest, waiting for the day they could reclaim their kingdom, the final year of busy city life passed quickly for the Pandavas. Yudhishthir diced with Virata, and thanks to the skills he had acquired from Vrishaparva, won much wealth from the king. So when you play dice game, it is gambling. So Yudhishthir Maharaj would win all the time, and he would win much wealth of the king. He secretly distributed his winnings to his brothers. Bhima ensured that his brothers had the best of food and drink. From the ladies in the palace, Arjun obtained many items of clothing which he gave to his brothers, and the twins also shared with their brothers the wealth they earned from the king. It seemed to the Pandavas that they were back in their mother's house. They lived so happily. They also kept vigilant eyes on Draupadi and were always alert to danger from Duryodhana's men. You can imagine, Duryodhana must have already sent his spies, he had sent, looking for the Pandavas all over. So they were also vigilant, alert. In the 4th month of their stay in Virata, there was a festival held in honor of Shiva. Among the festivities was a wrestling contest. Okay, this is in the 4th month of their stay. There was a wrestling contest. Many powerful fighters from all over Bharat assembled in the city, roaring like lions. Those colossal bodied men were maddened with power and strength. They strode about the wrestling arena, slapping their arms and chests. Virata honored them and organized a tournament between them. One wrestler, Jimuta, was the most powerful, and he emerged victorious from the contest. As he stood shouting out a furious challenge, none dared come forward to fight him. Virata then summoned his cook Vallabha and ordered him to fight. So there were so many wrestlers, one came out victorious, and no other wrestler could actually stand before him. And he was, showing off in front of everyone. Then Virata called for Vallabha from the kitchen. Bhima could not defy the king's order reluctantly. Why reluctantly? Because if he went there, he would be recognized. This is their last year incognito. So they are supposed to be hidden. So if he came out and fought, and especially when there's gathering from all over the world, then there are, there's the risk of being discovered. So reluctantly, but this is the order of the king, he had to go. He prepared for the match. Although he enjoyed fighting, he was afraid someone would recognize him if he displayed too much power. So he couldn't actually fight to his full capacity. Praying to Krishna that he not be recognized, he went before the roaring Jimuta. The two wrestlers appeared like infuriated elephants about to fight for leadership of the herd. A fierce fight ensued with the combatants locked together, each looking for the other's weak points. Their blows sounded like thunderbolts striking mountains. The crowds gasped and cheered in turn. Each fighter dashed the other to the ground, threw him, pressed him down by force, and whirled the other around. They slapped and kicked one another with tremendous power. Knees struck against knees and heads against heads, sounding like two stones crashing together. As they fought, they shouted insults at each other. The crowd was delighted, some supporting Bhima and others Jimuta. Finally, Bhima decided to end the bout. He suddenly lifted his rival over his head and whirled him about. He spun him 100 times with such force that he fell unconscious there itself while he was still being, whirled around. Then Bhima dashed him to the ground. Seeing the senseless Jimuta lying on the ground, Virata was overjoyed because this is his, from his kingdom, his servant who won. A visitor has been overpowered. Virata was overjoyed. He immediately gave Bhima valuable gifts and asked if there were any others who dared challenge him. When no one came forward, Virata ordered that he fight with lions, tigers, and elephants. Bhima overpowered many animals in the midst of the astonished crowd, but none had any idea of his actual identity. It didn't even cross their minds that could this be Bhima? The king was pleased with all the Pandavas. By his celestial skills in the arts, Arjun delighted Virata and the palace ladies, his dance and musical skills, singing. Nakul showed him many well trained and swift horses, and the king was also pleased with Sahadev's handling of his cows and bulls. But Draupadi, seeing her husbands engaged in such menial service, felt pained at heart. The Panchala princess waited upon Sudeshna in misery, but she conducted herself in such a way that the queen was satisfied by her service and gave no thought as to who she might actually be. 11 months passed. Can you imagine? This is the last month of the 13th year, and still the difficulties are not over for the Pandavas. This is the last month. 11 months passed. One day, as Draupadi was moving about the palace, the commander of Virata's army, Kichaka, happened to see her. The mighty Kichaka was immediately struck by Cupid's arrows when he saw Draupadi's enchanting beauty. She seemed like a goddess descended to earth. His heart was inflamed by desire. He went to his sister Sudeshna and said, I have never seen this maidservant. I have never seen this maidservant before. Who is she? Her beauty maddens me as wine does with its aroma. Indeed, this bewitching damsel has ground my heart and brought me under subjection. I am fevered with desire, and only she has the cure. Tell me, sister, how she has come to be your servant. It seems that she is too good for such a position. Let her grace my palace and enjoy every opulence with me. As he spoke, Draupadi entered the queen's chamber. Without waiting for Sudeshna's answer, Kichaka turned to Draupadi and said, Who are you, and who do you belong to? O fair faced maiden, simply by seeing you, I have lost my mind. I have never seen such grace and beauty in a woman. Are you goddess Lakshmi herself? Or perhaps Sri, Hri, Kirti, or Kanti? How must you must be a celestial, because you shine like the full moon. What man would not yield to Cupid's influence when he beheld your face shining with such heavenly beauty? Your well shaped breasts, resembling lotus buds, and your shapely form have afflicted me with the blazing fire of lust. O fair one, pray extinguish this fire with the rain cloud of union. Your maddening gestures and movements have pierced my heart. It behooves you to save me from my plight by surrendering yourself to me and allowing me to enjoy your company. You shall have whatever you desire, and your time as a servant will end. Kichaka spoke at length in his attempt to woo Draupadi, but she was only filled with horror. Lowering her face and covering her head, she replied, I am a Sairindri of low caste, holding the hateful position of dressing hair. O hero, in desiring me, you wish for one who is not worthy of such an honor. Furthermore, I am already the wife of others, and thus your conduct is unbecoming. Do not turn your mind to adultery, for it leads inevitably to disgrace and calamity. To fully abandon sin is ever the duty of the good. Kichaka, whose senses were completely overpowered by lust, simply smiled. Without caring for the consequences, he addressed Draupadi in sweet tones. O timid one, it is not fair of you to reject me. I am enslaved by Cupid on your account. If you do not accept my proposal, then you will have to regret your decision. I am the lord of this realm. The people depend upon me for their safety. In heroism, I have no rival on earth. My power and prosperity are without compare. Why do you turn me down in favor of a life of servitude? I shall bestow the kingdom upon you. Live with me in happiness and enjoy whatever you desire. Draupadi was disgusted by Kichaka's shamelessness and she became angry. O son of a Suta, do not needlessly throw away your life. I am always protected by 5 heroes. You cannot win me because I am already married to 5 Gandharvas of terrible prowess. They will not tolerate this insult and will doubtlessly slay you if you persist in your attempts to win me. You will have no refuge, even if you descend to the subterranean world or soar to the heavens. My husbands always crush their enemies. Why, O Kichaka, do you desire me like a child on his mother's lap who desires the moon? Look to your safety and leave me alone. Draupadi turned and quickly walked from the queen's chamber. Kichaka was shocked and dismayed by Draupadi's stern refusal. He said to Sudeshna, O princess, do whatever is necessary to make this maiden incline toward me. If she does not accept me, I shall kill myself. Sudeshna pitied her brother in his disappointment. She said, I will find a suitable opportunity and send Sairindri to you to fetch something. In the solitude of your quarters, you will be able to solicit her at leisure, right? Maybe here seeing so many people and you're just, so suddenly approaching her, she was taken aback. But I will send her to your quarters, and there it'll be just you and her, and there, you can nicely talk to her and approach her. She might agree that, like that. She will then most likely become attached to you. Kichaka agreed to his sister's suggestion and returned to his palace. A few days later, the queen called for Draupadi and said, O Sairindri, today is a festival and I'm feeling thirsty. My brother has had some excellent wines prepared. Please go there and fetch some for me. Draupadi answered in alarm, O princess, I shall not go to that wicked man's house. You have seen for yourself how shamelessly he approached me. O most beautiful lady, I asked when I came here that I be kept safe from other men. If you send me to Kichaka, he will dishonor me. Please send one of your other maids. You need have no fear, Sudeshna replied dismissively. You are being sent from the royal palace. My brother will not dare to insult you. The queen handed Draupadi a golden pot and waved her away, right? No more talking, right? Just take this and go. Fearful and crying, Draupadi left for Kichaka's palace. As she walked, she prayed, as I am always faithful to my husbands, by the strength of that virtue, may I be protected from Kichaka. Draupadi looked up at the sun and asked the sun god for his protection. Surya, out of compassion, ordered a Rakshasa to invisibly protect her, and from that time on, he never left her under any circumstances. Okay, so there is a Rakshasa sent by Surya who is invisibly protecting Draupadi constantly. He's going with Draupadi. When Draupadi entered when Draupadi entered, Kichaka stood up in joy. With folded palms, he said, with folded palms, he's talking to a servant. Huh? Oh, fair one of beautiful tresses, you are welcome. Somehow I have managed to survive the last few days since seeing you. Now you shall become the mistress of my house. Let golden chains and brilliant ornaments of every description be brought for your pleasure. Gems, jewels, and silken garments await you in abundance. I have prepared for you a fine bed. Come, drink with me the honeyed wine. Without looking at him, Draupadi replied coldly, Sudeshna has sent me to fetch wine. Please fill this pot and let me leave quickly, for she is thirsty. Let others take the queen her wine, Kichaka said, moving toward Draupadi. You should remain here with me. Kichaka took Draupadi by the arm. Crying out in fear, she said tearfully, as I have never acted unfaithfully toward my husbands, even in my mind or heart, I shall, by virtue of that truth, see you hurled down and punished for this sin. Right? He actually touched her. He caught her arm. Draupadi struggled free from Kichaka and he ran after her, grabbing hold of her upper garment as it trailed behind her. Trembling in wrath, she spun around and pushed him with all her strength. Caught by surprise, he fell to the ground like a tree cut at its root. Draupadi rushed into the royal court, so she ran into the courthouse, the court of Virata, King Virata, the assembly. Draupadi rushed into the royal court to seek the king's protection. Kichaka pursued her and caught her right in front of the king. Pulling her back forcefully, Kichaka kicked Draupadi and she fell to the mosaic floor. The invisible Rakshasa appointed by the sun god then struck Kichaka a blow with the force of the wind and he fell prostrate. Bhima happened to be present in the court. He's usually in the kitchen, but at that moment he was in the court. He happened to be present in the court along with Yudhishthir and he glared at Kichaka. The unforgiving Pandava gnashed his teeth and clenched his fists, ready to leap up at once and kill Kichaka. His eyes became dark and smoky, and terrible wrinkles appeared on his forehead, along with beads of sweat. Right? It was obvious to the people around. If they looked at Bhima at that time, they could see that he's ready to pounce on, this Kichaka. Bhima rubbed his forehead with his huge hand, fighting his desire to hurl himself at Draupadi's offender. Yudhishthir reached over and pressed Bhima's arm. "O cook, you had best go about your business," he said in a low voice. "You are surely needed in the kitchen." Restrained by his elder brother, Bhima rose up slowly and left the court with his eyes fixed on Kichak, who was picking himself up from the floor, looking around in amazement to see who had struck him. Draupadi, seeing her husbands maintaining their disguises before the king, stood before Virata with flashing eyes. "This son of a Suta has kicked me, the honored wife of those whose enemies can never sleep, even if they reside in heaven. The Suta's son has kicked me, the respected consort of those who are truthful, devoted to Brahmins, and ever accustomed to giving charity. He has kicked me, the beloved wife of those who are endowed with energy, power, and self control, and who, if they were not tied down by duty, could destroy the whole of this world. Alas, where today do those warriors roam? How can they, like eunuchs, suffer their spouse to be so insulted? Where is their wrath, prowess, and energy when they cannot protect their own wife from a wretch?" As she spoke, Draupadi glanced toward Yudhishthir, who was squirming in pain. Turning her gaze on Virata, she went on, "What can I do? I am in this city, and he who defies virtue has coolly allowed me to be insulted before his eyes. What can I do? I am in this city, and he who defies virtue has coolly allowed me to be insulted before his eyes." Virata, right? He is the king. "Why does the king not act like a king toward Kichaka? O best of men, how do you tolerate this outrage? Let all the courtiers mark your failure today. Where is the virtue in either Kichaka or Virata? Or even in the silent courtiers who have witnessed Kichaka's despicable behavior?" Yes, Draupadi was sobbing. Virata replied, "I do not know the full details of your quarrel with Kichaka. Without knowing everything, how can I pass judgment?" The king looked at his brother-in-law who was smiling. The aging Virata depended on Kichaka to defend his city. This is the problem. Why he was helpless? Because Kichaka was very powerful and the king was depending on Kichaka for the protection of his city. The king could not say anything to offend him. But the courtiers were now praising Draupadi and reproaching Kichaka. "This gentle lady is like a goddess in our midst," they said. "Surely the man who has her for a wife wants for nothing." Right? That means he'll be completely satisfied. Anyone who has this lady as his wife, he will be a completely satisfied man. By insulting her, Kichaka has performed a sinful deed. All the courtiers are saying. Yudhishthir sat burning with anger. Drops of perspiration ran down his face. In a taut voice, he said to Draupadi, "O Sairindri, you should return to Sudeshna's apartments. The wives of heroes endure pain on behalf of their husbands." Right? Your husbands are heroes. So on behalf of your husbands, you should endure pain like that. Right? When the right time comes, they will take action. So the wives of heroes endure pain on behalf of their husbands, but in the end, they attain those blessed regions where their husbands go. I think your Gandharva husbands do not feel that the moment is right for a display of their power. You should not remain here and cause a disturbance. Be confident that your husbands will assuage your sorrow in due course. Draupadi, who had fallen weeping to the ground, composed herself and stood up to leave. I practice piety for the sake of my kind and forgiving husbands. They, of whom the eldest is addicted to dice, are ever oppressed by others. It was another taunt also, although, she just got up and left. Watched by the mystified king, she went out of the court with her head lowered and returned to the queen's chambers. When Sudeshna saw her tearful face, she asked, "O beautiful one, who has slighted you? Why do you weep? O gentle one, whose happiness will come to an end today?" Bowing before the queen, Draupadi replied, "As I went to fetch your wine, Kichak struck me in the court in the king's presence." "What? Then I shall have him chastised," Sudeshna said angrily. "O lady with curling tresses, if it is your will, then let this lustful man be killed." Right? Who's saying? Sudeshna is saying to Draupadi. "Do not worry, O queen. Those whom he has wronged will deal with him enough. I think he will go to the region of Yamaraj before long. You don't have to kill him. The people that he has, harmed, they will take care of it. I don't think he's going to live long," Draupadi said. Draupadi went to her own rooms and bathed herself, putting on fresh garments. She wanted to purify herself of Kichaka's touch. Her mind dwelt on her insult, and she considered how to avenge herself. She thought of Bhima. He had obviously been ready to annihilate Kichaka on the spot. Certainly he would fulfill her desire if she approached him. She could not face another day knowing that Kichaka still lived. Seeing the king powerless to protect her and thinking she had no protector, Kichaka would doubtlessly continue to harass her. Draupadi decided to go to Bhima. When the palace residents were asleep, she went silently to his quarters. As she entered his room, she found him asleep, snoring like a lion. The chamber, filled with her beauty and Bhima's effulgence, seemed ablaze with splendor. The princess went up to Bhima's bed and embraced him, even as a creeper embraces a sal tree. In a voice as sweet as the sound of a veena, she said, "O Bhimsen, rise up. Why do you sleep like one dead? How can a sinful wretch survive after insulting the wife of one who lives?" Right? Husband is still alive, and if uh, if the wife is insulted by a sinful man, uh, how can he still live? Such a sinful man, how can he still live after insulting the wife of another man? Bhima, that means the husband has to take action. Bhima sat up. "Why have you woken me, gentle princess? You appear wan and sorrowful. Surely the incident today is Virata's court is the reason. I too am burning with anger as I remember it. Tell me the cause of your pain, O Panchali, and I shall do whatever lies in my power. I will always do whatever pleases you, and I am prepared to deliver you from danger again and again. Quickly let me know your desire and go back to your bed before others are up." Draupadi wept. How can she, who has Yudhishthir for a husband, ever be free of grief? How can she, who has Yudhishthir for her husband, ever be free of grief? You know all, O Bharata, and have no need to ask. The grief I felt when Dushasan dragged me into the assembly hall still burns me day and night. What other princess could live after such an insult? How could anyone survive what I suffered at Jayadrat's hands? Who but me could endure being kicked in the presence of the Matsya king? Of what use is my life when you allow me to suffer all these pains, O hero? Really. Bhima gently stroked his wife's face and she wept. She looked into his angry eyes and continued. The wicked Kichaka wants me to marry him. As I remember his words, my heart bursts like an overripe fruit. O slayer of foes, all my sufferings are due to your elder brother's addiction to dice. Who else but him could have sacrificed everything, including his own self, for the sake of gambling? Having lost inestimable quantities of wealth, he now supports himself by dicing. The great king Yudhishthir, who was worshipped by throngs of Brahmins and tributary kings, now hides himself in fear, overpowered by calamity. That Lord of men, who is free from cruelty, full of compassion, forbearing, and truthful, has become a gambler in King Virata's court. He now depends on another's mercy for his subsistence. Surely he is experiencing the misery of hell. Draupadi poured out all her pent up grief. The time in Virata had passed slowly for her. With no opportunity to speak to her husbands and to be solaced by them, she had suffered silently. It was agonizing to see her 5 heroic husbands living as servants, and her own position as a serving maid was practically intolerable. Only her sense of duty and loyalty to Yudhishthir sustained her. Although she criticized Yudhishthir to Bhima, she would never consider being disloyal to him for even a moment. She spoke at length of her sorrow at seeing Yudhishthir's plight, and Bhima consoled her. Taking hold of Bhima's hands, the Panchala princess continued, O Bharata, I shall tell you of another great grief. Do not become angry as I speak, only out of the sadness in my heart. But seeing you, a servant and cook, causes me more distress than I can bear. When Virata joyfully made you fight with elephants and the ladies of his palace laughed, my mind sank in sorrow. Indeed, I fainted and the queen had to revive me. She said, It seems you harbor some attachment for this cook. Both of you came to Virata together, and I often see you lamenting for him. Are you attached to the handsome Vallabha? She still chides me in this way, which only increases my pain. So it's more like you're married to 5 Gandharvas, but looks like you fell in love with another man. Looks like you're always, concerned about him, and I see you always. So even now, she teases me, and this causes me pain. Draupadi then described to Bhima the pain she felt on seeing Arjun acting as a eunuch. The mighty Dhananjaya, the scourge of his enemies, and fearful to even the celestials, now lives in a guise despised by all men. Who likes eunuchs, right? They don't even live in community, they have their own, they live out somewhere outside. So he's despised by all men. And Arjun, the great Arjun, he's living in the guise of a eunuch, covering his body with gaudy clothes, right? All bright, flashing colored clothes, right? Covering his body with gaudy clothes and bangles. That hero lives in grief, surrounded only by women. When I see the dreadful wielder of the bow decked with ornaments, when I see the dreadful wielder of the bow decked with ornaments, yeah, with his hair tied in a braid, my heart burns with anguish, right? He's a Kshatriya, but here he's dressed up like a lady. My heart burns with anguish. Bhima remained silent as Draupadi spoke, revealing to him all the pain she was experiencing upon seeing each of her husbands in positions of servitude. Finally, she concluded, I tell you all this only so that you may be aware of my suffering. You are always my protector and shelter, and I depend fully upon you, O son of Pandu. Surely in some past life I offended some great deity and am thus receiving the results. The destiny of men is difficult to understand. When I see you 5 brothers cast into sorrow and myself subjected to the hard miseries of a maid servant, I consider it all the work of inscrutable destiny. I do not know how much longer I can carry on, however, right? I consider all this is destiny and I accept it, but I don't know for how much longer I'll be able to go on like this, accepting this. Just look at my hands. Draupadi held out her hands and showed Bhima the calluses caused by the work she did for the queen. Hearing of her suffering and seeing her condition, Bhima covered his face and cried. After some moments, he composed himself and said in sorrow, "Fie on the strength of my arms, and fie to Arjun's Gandiva, since I now see your two lotus hands scarred by work. O princess, I would have wrought havoc in Virata's court, but Yudhishthir restrained me. With a single kick, I would have crushed Kichaka's head. O Panchali, when I saw him strike you, I was ready to destroy the Matsya race. It was only due to Dharmaraj that I held back. I too suffer in silence, O beautiful one, that we have been expelled from our kingdom, that I have not yet annihilated the Kauravas, and that we are forced to live here as servants, scorches my limbs and afflicts my heart as if it were pierced by a dart." Bhima told Draupadi to be patient and not to criticize Yudhishthir. He cited the examples of other great ladies who had followed their husbands in times of misery. Eventually, they were all brought again to happiness due to their virtuous practices. Bhima held Draupadi's hands. "Less than a month now remains of our exile," he said. "After that time, you will again become an empress. Do not doubt." Draupadi threw herself onto Bhima's chest. "I do not think I will last that long. The wicked-minded Kichaka will not leave me alone. He has no fear from anyone and will doubtlessly seek to outrage me if I do not accept him. That man is without virtue. He is proud, cruel, impudent, and warlike, absorbed only in gratifying his senses. Even the king has no power over him, and he will not hesitate to approach me as he pleases. O Bhima, although you Pandavas are adhering to your pledge out of virtue, you will surely suffer a loss of virtue when I am violated and give up my life. To protect one's wife is a pious husband's first duty, for from the wife one's own self is born as the son. For heroes there is always virtue in repressing the enemy. O mighty one, as you have always rescued me from wicked men, I entreat you to slay Kichaka without delay. If he should live for even one more day, I will swallow poison and give up my life." Bhima made up his mind. He could not stand Draupadi's pain. Taking her by the shoulders, he said, "Gentle one, I will do as you say. Today I will slay Kichaka and all his followers. Listen carefully. When the sun rises, you should go to him with sweet smiles. Tell him that you secretly hold in your heart an attraction for him. Then arrange to meet him in the evening. There is a dancing hall some way from the other residences, so further away from the residences, which is empty at night. Have him come there, and I shall greet him and send him to meet his ancestors." Overjoyed, Draupadi embraced Bhima and left his room. Just after dawn the next day, Draupadi went to the palace to seek her out. Sorry, Kichaka went. Just after dawn the next day, Kichaka went to the palace to seek her out. Finding her in the queen's quarters, he said, "O timid one, yesterday you witnessed my power. Although I threw you down in front of the king, he said nothing. He is king in name only. I am the actual ruler here. Accept me as your lord, and I shall bestow heaps of gold and gems upon you. 100 male and 100 female servants will wait upon you. You will ride on the best of chariots. O beautiful lady, let us be united." Draupadi glanced down demurely, right? Shyly, she just looked down. Turning herself slightly away from Kichaka, she replied, "O Kichaka, our union together must be without anyone else's knowledge. I am afraid of my husband's. If we can lie in secret, then I shall be yours." Kichaka, his face blooming with happiness, replied eagerly, "It shall be as you say. I am under your control and overpowered by Cupid, O lady of beautiful thighs. We can meet in some lonely place where none shall detect us. feeling sickened within herself. But smiling outwardly, Draupadi said, not far from here is the king's dancing hall. The princess uses it only in the day. I will go there 2 hours after sunset. O hero, meet me there. Draupadi left at once and went to her own chamber, thinking of the night to come. The day seemed like a month. On the plea of feeling ill, she remained in her room the whole day. She felt sullied by her conversation with Kichaka and would only feel peaceful when he was slain. For his part, Kichaka was filled with anticipation. As evening approached, he dressed carefully and ornamented himself. He put on fragrant garlands and smeared his limbs with perfumes and sandalwood paste. Overpowered by lust, he waited for nightfall. How the time was dragging! As soon as the sun had set, Bhima made his way to the dancing hall. He slipped inside and hid himself, waiting for Kichaka's arrival. Draupadi also came there, and before long Kichaka entered the darkened hall. He called out for Draupadi, being praised for my beauty, being praised for my beauty by the women in my house. I came here thinking of you alone. Kichaka is saying, being praised for my beauty. Whose beauty? Kichaka's beauty. Being praised for my beauty by the women in my house. I came here thinking of you alone. That means I didn't go to the women, I came here to you. They were praising me, but I came to you. You shall become the best of my consorts, and I shall give you immense wealth, O fair maiden. Where are you? By my good fortune, you have come here tonight, O handsome one, Draupadi replied sweetly. I consider your touch as burning, and you are an expert at gallantry. There is no other man as attractive as you are to women. O hero, I am over here. Kichika moved toward the sound of Draupadi's voice. Bhima was hiding behind a silk drape at the side of the wall. Hmm. As Kichaka passed, he suddenly came out and stood before him. Bhima's angry voice boomed out, today your sister shall behold you, vile as you are, thrown down on the earth with your limbs shattered. Today your sister shall behold you, while as you are, thrown down on the earth with your limbs shattered. What does that mean? Your sister shall behold you? Which sister? Acha Sudeshna. Okay, okay. Right. Okay. So today your sister shall behold you. Like after you're dead, she will hold you and she'll cry. Oh, my brother's dead. Today your sister shall behold you, vile as you are, thrown down on the earth with your limbs shattered. With you slain, Sairendri shall wander freely without fear. Then too shall we, her husbands, live happily. Bhima immediately seized hold of Kichaka's hair, which was adorned with garlands, and dragged him down. Kichaka was shocked. Sairendri had tricked him, trying to shake off the slight inebriation from the wine he had been drinking. He pulled himself free of Bhima's grasp. Bhima punched Kichak with his iron-hard fists. Kichak took hold of Bhima's two arms and tried to kick away his feet. Hmm. The two mighty men shuffled violently around the hall, locked together. They appeared like the two celestial monkeys, Vali and Sugriva, fighting together in days of yore. Breaking apart, they stood belligerently facing one another. Their upraised arms looked like two pairs of furious five-hooded serpents. Arms looked like serpents. They struck one another with the force of thunderbolts. The empty hall resounded with great cracks, and the walls trembled. Enraged, they fought with fists, nails, and teeth. They kicked and hurled each other about with the force of a tempest. Neither showed fatigue nor wavered. Blows rained down without cessation as both men became worked up into a fury. Like two powerful bulls, they came against each other again and again. As their blows landed, the air was filled with the sound of trees splitting open. Air was filled with the sound of trees splitting open. Kichaka was Hmm. Kichaka was astonished at his opponent's power. Although he had fought and defeated great heroes all over the world, he had never encountered such a foe. It was like fighting with a mountain or the earth itself. Kichaka exerted himself to his full power, trying to throw the unshakable Bhima to the ground. But Bhima caught him in an embrace and crushed him like a steel vise. Breathing in deeply and expanding his massive chest, Kijaka broke free. Bhima instantly came at him again and struck him on the breast. Then he threw Kichaka across the hall as a hurricane tosses a tree. Mustering all his strength, Kichaka rushed at Bhima and took hold of his neck. He pulled the Pandava down and brought his knee up unto his chest, and with all his power. Bhima was thrown to the floor and he rolled over quickly. He looked up at Kichaka with burning eyes, appearing like Yamaraj with mace in hand. He rose from the floor, blazing with anger. He bellowed at Kichaka and rushed at him like a maddened elephant charging another. The two heroes again locked together, grunting and grappling as they moved about the hall. Although Kichaka was a powerful fighter, expert in all forms of combat, he found all his moves more than matched by Bhima. Gradually he felt his strength waning. Bhima, seeing his foe weakening, became even more energetic. He took hold of Kichaka and crushed him in his mace-like arms. Unable to catch his breath, Kichaka fell senseless to the floor. Bhima grabbed his hair and roared like a lion that had just killed a large animal. Lifting his groggy opponent above his head, he whirled him about violently. Bhima then smashed Kichaka onto the marble floor and fell upon him. Placing his knees on Kichaka's chest, he took hold of his throat, strangled him. Draupadi was joyful as she watched Bhima pound Kichaka into a mutilated mess. He thrust his arms, legs, and head into his body. Kichaka's arms, legs, and head, like when you make chapati dough or bread dough, you just collect the ends and you punch it in the center. Like that, he collected his arms, legs, and head and just thrust them into his body and reduced him to a shapeless lump of flesh. He really looked like a dough now, dough ball, like that, the body of Kichaka. His anger appeased at Kichaka's death, Bhima stood up. He turned to Draupadi. See what I have done to this wretch, Panchali? You should know that any who seek to harm you will meet a similar end, O beautiful haired one. Bhima left the hall and made his way back to his room. Draupadi returned to the palace and told the guards that they should go to the dancing hall. There you will find he who desired another's wife. Slain by my Gandharva husbands, he lies weltering in gore. The guards ran to the hall and saw the dead Kichaka. They gazed in amazement at his mangled body. Gradually, thousands of soldiers came there to see their slain commander lying amid his scattered ornaments. All of them were astonished. He was hardly recognizable. Who was capable of such a feat? Kichaka was an almost invincible warrior who had beaten the best wrestlers and fighters in the world. The soldiers gasped in disbelief. None of them suspected Vallabha. Struck with wonder, they stood about asking, who could have done this? Where are Kichaka's arms and legs? Where is his head? As Kichaka's followers looked at him, they were filled with fear. Talking among themselves, they concluded that their leader must have been killed by the Gandharvas. They lifted his body, which resembled the body of a tortoise with its limbs withdrawn, and carried him outside the hall to perform the last rites. As they made their way to the cremation ground, they saw Draupadi watching them. Knowing that Kichaka had gone to meet her, some of them exclaimed, there is the unchaste one for whom Kichaka was slain. She too should be killed. Let us burn her along with our lord. A couple of the soldiers sought the king's permission to execute Draupadi by placing her on the fire with Kichak. The king, knowing the power of his commander's followers, agreed. The Sutas, so the followers were also pretty powerful, Kichaka's followers. So knowing their power, the king agreed. The Sutas at once ran to Draupadi and seized her. They bound the struggling princess and placed her upon the large bier with Kichaka's corpse. Draupadi cried out in terror as she was carried towards the crematorium. May Jaya, Jayanta, Vijaya, Jayatsena, and Jayatbala hear my words. Remember, today I didn't tell you when we were, you know, revising what we read the other day. So they also had code names for all the 5 Pandavas, which they would use in times of emergency. So each one was named. Jaya is Yudhishthir Maharaj, Jayanta, like that. So each person had one name, which only these 5 would know, and of course Draupadi. Only they would know, others would not know. So at this time of emergency, loudly she's saying, May Jaya, Jayanta, Vijaya, Jayatsena, and Jayatbala hear my words. Save me! The Sutas are carrying me away. Let those heroic Gandharvas, whose chariots and bows resound like thunder, understand that their wife is in great peril. Bhima heard her pitiful cries. Without hesitation, he ran from his room. He could understand that Kichaka's followers were taking Draupadi to the crematorium. The Pandava went there by a different route without being seen, his head covered with a cloth. Scaling walls and crossing gardens, he swiftly reached the crematorium ground, which lay just outside the city. He found a great palmyra tree and immediately uprooted it. He placed it on his shoulders. Kichaka's followers arrived and saw Bhima standing like death personified, holding his rod of chastisement. They howled in fear. Here is the Gandharva who killed Kichaka. Release Sairendri before he kills us all. The Sutas put Draupadi down and ran in all directions. Bhima pursued them relentlessly and struck them down with the tree. As he struck out at them, he knocked over other trees, which fell crashing to the ground. Roaring like a furious lion, the Pandavas slew all the Sutas one after another. In a short time, the crematorium was covered with more than 100 dead bodies. They all lay about like uprooted trees. Telling Draupadi to return to her rooms, Bhima quickly went back by the route he had come before anyone discovered him. The people of Virata, hearing the commotion from the crematorium, rushed to see what was causing it. Discovering the slain Sutas, they ran to the king and informed him, O king, the powerful Suta followers of Kichaka have all been killed. They are scattered about like so many mountain summits clapped by thunderbolts. They are scattered about like so many mountain summits clapped by thunderbolts, right? So when the mountain summit is hit by a thunderbolt, it is, it falls off, it breaks and falls off like that. There are so many followers of Kichaka like that. Surely this is the work of the Gandharvas, enraged by Kichaka's assault on Sairendri. She is now returning to your city unharmed. We are afraid of her. She is beautiful beyond compare. The Gandharvas are powerful and wrathful, and men are undoubtedly lustful, right? What will we do, right? Because we don't have control. Men naturally are lustful, and she's so extraordinarily beautiful. If she's walking around, and if by chance, out of control, if we look at her lustily, then her husbands will come and kill us. So we are very afraid of, Draupadi, Sairendri. She's beautiful beyond compare. The Gandharvas are powerful and wrathful, and men are undoubtedly lustful. Quickly do something so that our city may not be destroyed. Virata was astonished. Let Kichaka and all his followers be cremated on one great pyre with gems and perfumes. I will take care of Sairendri. Turning to his wife, the king said, When Sairendri comes, tell her this from me. O fair one, please go wherever you like with my blessings. We are afraid the Gandharvas will destroy us. Indeed, I am too fearful to even speak with you directly. As Draupadi entered the city, the people fled in all directions, like deer seeing a tiger. Some even shut their eyes and covered their heads. Draupadi went back into the palace. After she had bathed, the queen approached her and conveyed Virata's message. Draupadi replied, O queen, allow me to remain here for only 2 more weeks. The Gandharvas will be obliged to you for this favor. After that, they will take me away from here and do whatever is agreeable to you. The queen assented and released Draupadi from her duties. After telling her to remain in the palace until her husbands came, she left to inform the king. Tomorrow's chapter will be the Kurus attack Virata. So we are coming close. Slowly we are coming towards the end of the first part. And part 2 will be the Battle of Kurukshetra. So all this is part 1. Okay. So we'll end it here. Hare Krishna. Thank you.